Rain slid down the tall windows of the Sycamore Financial Tower, blurring the view of the bustling city beyond. Inside, the lobby gleamed with imported marble and the faint smell of polished brass. People moved with the crisp certainty of those who believed they belonged. Among them stood Adrian Cole, coat damp from the storm, shoes scuffed from a long walk. He had arrived precisely on time for a meeting that could change the course of his family's small manufacturing business. Yet as the minutes ticked into hours, the weight of the room pressed harder against him. A quiet unease spread through the space. A receptionist glanced at him, then quickly looked away. The manager behind the frosted glass door never emerged. Other visitors came and went, escorted to plush conference rooms, while Adrian remained seated on a solitary chair near the entrance. The clock's second hand swept in loud, deliberate arcs. What started as polite patience turned to a knot of questions. Why the delay? Was there a problem with his paperwork? He replayed the appointment email in his mind, every word clear, every confirmation correct. Still, no one approached. His presence seemed to disturb the smooth rhythm of the bank, like a stray note in a carefully composed song. Outside, the storm thickened, echoing the tension building inside. Adrian's mind wandered to his employees waiting for news, the production line that depended on a line of credit, the families whose paychecks rested on today's decision. Each passing minute felt like an invisible verdict. By the time the lobby clock neared the 2-hour mark, the air around him shifted, subtle at first, then unmistakable. A group of sharply dressed board members entered through the private elevator. Their arrival sent a ripple of attention through the staff. It was at that precise moment that the manager finally stepped out of her office, her expression tightening as her eyes locked on Adrian. Adrian Cole had built his life on perseverance. Born in a working-class neighborhood on the edge of the city, he had learned early that opportunity rarely arrived gift-wrapped. His parents worked multiple jobs, teaching him the quiet dignity of effort. After college, Adrian returned home determined to revive the small metalworks factory his late father had started in a rented garage. The business had survived on grit and reputation. Clients appreciated Adrian's meticulous standards, yet expansion required capital. When a regional distributor offered a long-term contract, Adrian recognized the chance to secure dozens of stable jobs. All he needed was a business loan substantial enough to upgrade machinery and hire more workers. Sycamore Financial seemed the obvious choice. Known for funding innovative enterprises, the bank presented itself as a champion of local industry. Adrian prepared extensively, financial statements polished, market projections precise, references impeccable. He scheduled a meeting with Eleanor Graves, the senior manager reputed for her discerning eye. That morning, he dressed with care. A navy blazer over a clean white shirt, modest tie, freshly pressed trousers. His shoes, though worn at the edges, shone with a careful polish. He chose to walk from the subway despite the forecast, preferring the calm of the city's morning streets. Rain began midway, soaking his coat but not his resolve. Inside the tower, first impressions unfolded quickly. The lobby dazzled with a calculated display of wealth, high ceilings, brass fixtures, abstract art that whispered exclusivity. Adrian checked in, greeted the receptionist with quiet courtesy, and was asked to wait. At first, he enjoyed the architecture and the rhythmic sound of rain against glass. Minutes stretched. Guests in tailored suits were ushered through glass doors. Soft conversations floated above the faint music piping through hidden speakers. Adrian's presence began to feel like a question no one wanted to answer. The receptionist's polite smile faded to a mechanical mask. He noticed a pair of junior bankers whispering near the elevators, glancing occasionally in his direction. Adrian understood that appearance often dictated assumptions. His blazer lacked designer labels, his briefcase bore years of faithful service. He looked like a man who worked with his hands as much as his mind. Yet he also knew his financial statements rivaled those of many preferred clients. Time slipped by. An hour passed, then more. Adrian approached the desk once, only to be told with careful neutrality that Ms. Graves was momentarily delayed. The words felt rehearsed. Around him, the choreography of wealth continued, handshakes, quiet laughter, the faint clink of porcelain cups. Adrian remained the solitary figure out of step with the rhythm. The subtle sting of exclusion settled over him. He thought of his employees, the welders, machinists, and apprentices who trusted him to fight for their future. He imagined their faces if he returned empty-handed, and his resolve hardened. As the second hour approached, the quiet slight transformed into something sharper. Adrian sensed not merely delay but dismissal. Each time the office door opened, a flicker of hope stirred and quickly died. He steadied the environment with the precision of a craftsman. The bank's interior projected curated success, marble floors polished to a mirror sheen, indirect lighting designed to flatter. Every detail suggested efficiency and respect, qualities strangely absent in the way he was treated. He recalled other moments when outward appearance had invited silent judgment. A networking event where executives assumed he was part of the catering staff, a trade show where his questions were ignored until they learned he owned the company. These memories merged with the present, creating a heavy recognition. Outside the bank's insulated world, his factory hummed with purpose. Skilled hands shaped raw steel into products trusted by builders and engineers across the region. That reality contrasted sharply with the sterile elegance of the lobby where worth seemed measured by tailored suits and recognizable surnames. Adrian considered leaving. Pride urged him to walk out, to seek financing elsewhere. Yet responsibility anchored him. The livelihoods of dozens depended on this meeting. His parents had endured far worse indignities for less tangible rewards. He would stay. The staff's subtle behavior grew more revealing. A junior associate approached other visitors with offers of coffee, yet passed by Adrian without acknowledgement. Two executives emerged from a conference room, their conversation pausing as they noticed him, eyes briefly narrowing before turning away. The receptionist avoided direct contact entirely. Adrian maintained calm. He checked his watch, reviewed his documents again, and silently recited the talking points he had prepared. He reminded himself that dignity was not theirs to grant or withhold. Then a sudden shift electrified the room. The private elevator doors opened to reveal members of the bank's board of directors, figures of unmistakable authority. Their arrival commanded immediate deference. Staff straightened, conversations hushed, and the air vibrated with concealed urgency. Among them was a familiar face, Victor Lang, a longtime client of Adrian's company and a respected community leader. Lang's gaze swept the lobby and landed on Adrian. Recognition sparked instantly. A warm nod, a subtle sign of respect, and then a quiet word to a nearby associate. The effect rippled outward. The receptionist's posture stiffened. The office door that had remained closed for hours suddenly opened. Eleanor Graves appeared, her composed expression faltering when she noticed Adrian speaking with one of the board members. What followed unfolded with deliberate inevitability. The board members, including Lang, moved with calm authority, their presence redefining the atmosphere. Adrian remained seated, exuding a quiet patience that now carried undeniable weight. The manager's measured steps toward him betrayed a new urgency. She approached with a practiced smile, words of greeting poised yet tinged with a recognition she could not disguise. The staff who had ignored him earlier now watched with a mixture of curiosity and unease. In that charged moment, the unspoken truth revealed itself. Adrian's value had never depended on their acknowledgement. His reputation and accomplishments preceded him in circles that truly mattered, circles now represented by the board members standing a few feet away. The manager invited him into the office at last, her tone markedly different. The same space that had once seemed inaccessible now opened with sudden warmth. Yet the change did not erase the hours of calculated neglect. Inside, the discussion turned swiftly professional. Numbers were reviewed, projections admired, terms agreed upon. Board members offered insights and endorsements, underscoring Adrian's credibility. The loan, once a distant possibility, became an assured partnership. While the conversation remained polite, an undercurrent pulsed through every word. The board's respect for Adrian highlighted the stark contrast between genuine merit and superficial judgment. The manager's earlier indifference became an invisible weight in the room, a silent acknowledgement of her miscalculation. Adrian maintained composure, focusing on the agreement that would secure his company's future. He carried himself with the same quiet dignity he had shown while waiting. The power dynamics had shifted, but he sought no revenge, only resolution. When the meeting concluded, board members offered firm handshakes and words of support. The manager escorted Adrian back to the lobby, her carefully chosen phrases unable to disguise the new respect in her eyes. The rain had eased when Adrian stepped outside, the city washed clean by the storm. In his briefcase lay the approved loan documents, a promise of growth for his factory and stability for every worker depending on him, yet the weight he carried was not only paperwork. It was the quiet knowledge of what had transpired. 2 hours of deliberate disregard, followed by a sudden reversal only when influence entered the room. Adrian walked through the damp streets with steady steps. He thought of his parents and their lessons in resilience. He thought of the employees whose dedication had earned this opportunity. He thought of the countless individuals who faced similar silent barriers every day without the fortune of visible allies. The experience sharpened his purpose. He resolved to use his success to challenge these subtle forms of exclusion through community investment, mentorship programs, and partnerships that valued character over appearance. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement. A question lingered in the cool air. How many voices go unheard simply because they do not fit the expected image of importance? Adrian knew the answer was uncomfortable, but change begins with discomfort. His story was proof that dignity cannot be granted by those who overlook it. It is carried, steadfast and unyielding, by those who refuse to be defined by another's narrow vision. The storm had passed, but the lesson remained. True worth needs no validation. It speaks through action, perseverance, and the quiet power of integrity, a power no lobby, no delay, no silent judgment can ever diminish.